I didn't read to you in a few days, so here we go. This book is called Clara, the mostly true story of the rhinoceros who dazzled kings, inspired artists, and won the hearts of everyone while she ate her way up and down a continent. It's a bit of a glare with the shiny thing, but shiny things are so much fun on library books, by Emily Arnold McCulley. Clara. This is a nice book. It's very solid and very beautiful. And look at the back of it. Looks like Mount Vernon. Okay, onward. Holy smokes. Look at the inside cover. You know how we always do, and sometimes it's colors and sometimes it's patterns. But look at this. This is a map of these travels of Clara. Clara's tours, 1741 to 1758. 17 years before the United States was the United States. And here is the red line, are all the places that this amazing rhinoceros went. This is going to be a fascinating story, I dare say. Oh boy, these are pictures we're going to kind of want to reread this in person at some point, because look, these are beautiful, big, elaborate paintings, wonderful paintings. Look at that. So much detail. And that's before we even get to the first page. The book is dedicated for Ethan. Even this, look how cool, just that, the box around it and the design. This is a spectacular book already. Oh, lots of words. We might have to read this in several parts, but that's okay. Here's the first picture. And into this fancy kitchen. Seems to be something one doesn't expect. A little rhinoceros. Let's begin reading to find out what explains this. Nearly 300 years ago, when half the world was still a mystery to the other half, a Dutch sea captain arrived in India and called on an old friend. As they were trading stories, a remarkable creature padded into the room. "What on earth is that?" cried Captain Vandermeer, which is exactly what one might say when a rhinoceros comes into a fancy kitchen, or dining room, actually. "Our rhinoceros," said his host. "My, she's strange," the captain exclaimed. "She's an orphan," said his friend. "We call her Clara." Gazing at the creature, the captain had an idea. In Europe, people believe that rhinos are mythical beasts. Surely they will pay to see a real one. I could give up my lonely life at sea. And so the captain offered to buy Clara. "But how will you care for her?" his friend asked. "She eats a great deal." Vandermeer admitted he didn't know, but "I will sort it out," he promised. One wonders how the Dutch sea captain, no, how his host got their rhinoceros in the first place. Are they that abundant in India that they're in many dining rooms? One wonders. Clara was hoisted slowly onto Vandermeer's ship. It must have been frightening, but she trusted the captain. "Good girl," he said, and secured her so that when the vessel pitched, she would not be hurled into the water. The crew was delighted to have a new passenger. There were already a few animals on board to provide everyone with milk, eggs, and companionship. I always say, why not take your animals with you? There's a goat, a baby goat, a chicken, chicks, more chickens, rhinoceros, pig. Gave everyone she liked a lick. Her tongue was as soft as velvet. She ate stacks of hay and drank gallons of water. She adored oranges and beer. But after only 2 days, Clara seemed unhappy. The captain realized she was drying out in the sun. He gazed at the heaving sea. Fish! He could apply a daily slathering of fish oil to Clara's hide to keep her moist. Oh, how splendid to have a daily slathering of fish oil applied upon one's back. That's my editorial comment there. That was not in the text. As the ship rounded the Cape of Good Hope, Vandermeer fleshed out his plan. He would travel from town to town with Clara, selling tickets to all who wanted to see her. Of course, he would need to buy a great deal of hay. He had taken on a very large responsibility, but he was finding his rhino to be a pleasant companion. Can't remember if I showed you this page for long enough. Before Clara's hoofs touched dry land in Holland, word had spread that mythical beast was in the harbor. An excited crowd gathered to meet the ship. Vandermeer hurried Clara off to his home in Leiden. Lovely Clara. Lovely town. Now the captain had to figure out how to transport his Clara on her grand tour. He drew a design for a wagon and hired some shipbuilders to build it. It would take a team of 8 horses to pull her. Meanwhile, Clara went on eating. She was gaining 20 pounds a day and was always agreeable. When things didn't go well, as when work on the wagon went too slowly, Vandermeer looked deep into his rhino's eyes and felt calm. Clara might have been homely on the outside, but she had a beautiful soul. As you can see, he's discovering what some people discover, which is that with animals, there's something inside. The captain had posters and flyers printed. There has arrived in Europe an animal called rhinoceros. She has skin like seashells, ears like an ass, can swim like a duck, and is as tame as a dove. She eats 100 pounds of hay and 30 loaves of bread a day, and drinks 14 buckets of water and beer. At last, the unlikely duo were ready to start their adventure. To Vandermeer's delight, a little horn had sprouted on Clara's forehead. The captain sent word of his real mythical beast to Frederick the Great, the King of Prussia. When they rolled into Berlin, the king met them at the fish market, where Clara could be treated with oil of sardine. Unglaublich! 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 Incredible! The king exclaimed. What a monstrous creature, and yet how noble! Vandermeer was very pleased. Frederick had recognized Clara's essence. Frederick gave the captain a bag of gold coins to buy enough hay, beer, and oranges for the next leg of their journey. Here he comes in with Clara to Frederick, the King of Prussia, and here he is, and here are the people. Whoops! Oh, I didn't get it in time. The people are a bit incredulous, a bit wondering. The cats down below are a bit frightened, and who wouldn't be when a rhinoceros walks into your home? Then again, that's quite an interesting table with buckets of fish underneath it. I bet the cats enjoy that location. I can't tell if it's a tent outside or what. Off they went to Vienna, where Empress Maria Theresa pronounced Clara herrlich, magnificent. Then back to Germany. In Regensburg, Freiburg, and Dresden, Clara was drawn, painted, and modeled in porcelain. Schrecklich! Schrecklich! Frightful, people exclaimed, and yet, what a beautiful spirit. Clara's horn itched as it grew, so the captain gave her a board to rub against. She ate and drank and drank. Every week she was weighed and measured. 5,000 pounds, 11.5 feet around, 6 feet high, the mayor of Leipzig announced. Vandermeer had a bigger wagon built. The top one there, she's rubbing her horn against the board that he gave her. You know how animals will rub against things to either sharpen their claws or, in this case, do something to her horn, and they'll rub against the antlers. You'll see them up when you take a walk and a tree's lost some bark. The male deer has rubbed his antlers against it. Well, Clara does that too. When Clara had been on the road for a year, Frederick II of Hesse invited her to his orangery. She must be happy, the captain remarked, and when Clara is happy, so am I. Onward. Near Mannheim, they ran into a problem. The steep, narrow, rocky roads would not support a rhinoceros-carrying wagon. The glittering Rhine River beckoned. Could Clara be persuaded to board a raft? And if it capsized, could a rhinoceros really swim? While Clara munched grass, loggers felled trees and lashed them together. The captain called, "Come, my Clarakin," but she ignored him. Out came a basket of oranges. big page is hard to turn. And onto the raft went Clara. What a sight they were! Years later, people would say that seeing Clara had changed them forever. The captain knew just what they meant. These are spectacularly beautiful pictures. Really well done paintings, watercolors of places in Europe. This is as they've been traveling in Germany and where that great big map showed us. I love watercolors because they create so much sort of detail without detail, meaning without detailed pen strokes, but just sometimes with the brushstroke of wet paint. They create a sea that looks like a sea or a lake, and a boat and a raft and workers and mountains. Look at the mountains or these giant cliffs. It's just a few pen strokes. Look, I used to do this in art. I loved it. Pen and ink or pen and ink wash or pen ink, the ink and the watercolor. It's spectacular. And if you look at it in detail, there's not a whole bunch of detailed strokes to create that. It's just beautiful. I should read this in two parts. Oh, there's a few more pages. But as Clara's celebrity grew, so did she. It became impossible to pay for all her food. Sometimes the captain went hungry so Clara could eat. Which is why, as wonderful as this trip is, it's often best to leave animals where their native home is. They crisscrossed Germany, went home to Leiden, then left again, finally heading to France. Surely the richest king in Europe, Louis XV, owner of 2 lions, 2 tigers, a pelican, a camel, and a seal, would pay handsomely to meet the strangest animal on earth. When Clara arrived at the Palace of Versailles, the king looked her over from top to bottom. Clara munched the royal lawn. At last he said, "She is a marvel. I want her for my menagerie." Don't ask me why I put a British accent on a French king. But alas. The captain was speechless. Sell his beloved Clara? Unthinkable! Still, if he let her go, Clara could retire in comfort at Versailles. "You may have her for 100,000 gold pieces," he said at last. Louis, who had expected the rhinoceros as a gift, dismissed him in a huff. Vandermeer crumpled with relief. "Oh, Clarakin, I nearly lost you," he cried. But still, she had to be fed. Where would the money come from? They're outside the gates of Versailles, and he's so happy because he did not want to have to sell his beloved Clarakin. Luckily, Paris went absolutely wild for Clara. At the Saint-Germain fair, peasants, merchants, tradesmen, aristocrats, and royalty lined up to gaze into her soul. Vandermeer charged extra for private viewings and for stroking Clara's soft lip. Poets wrote verses and painters made portraits. Scientists came to examine her, and her picture appeared in Diderot's famous encyclopedia. Musicians composed songs in her honor. Hairdressers created this style a la rhinocero, and chic women everywhere copied it. Gowns a la rhinocero were worn to balls. In salons, people spoke of nothing else. The French Navy even christened a new ship La Rhinocero. It was rhinomania. Hold on, let me hold this so that you can see it better. Kind of funny hairstyles there. Rome would not be outdone by Paris. Clara rolled on to Italy and triumphed again. Or, as we say, again. Then one morning, Clara looked different. Her horn had fallen off. Could she be sick? The captain was about to cancel Clara's appearances, but when he looked into her eyes, he was reassured. It was clear that she loved this life. Sweet Clarakin, he told her, we will carry on. So Clara went to Venice. Venetians too saw her nobility, horn or no horn. And one day a little knob appeared on Clara's forehead. She was growing a new horn. Soon it was bigger than the first. For 17 years, Clara charmed audiences all over Europe. When the end came, the pair were in London. Clara's trusting eyes had grown cloudy. Vandermeer put his face close to hers and she gave him a lick. He knew she was dying. The captain had kept his promise to take care of her no matter what, and she had taken care of him too. They had lived a whole lifetime together. Dear Clarakin, he murmured, you've been the greatest trooper and my truest friend. For a moment, Clara seemed to remembering it all, and then she shut her eyes. And that's the end of the story. There's an author's note, and I'll just read a little bit of it. She weighed 3 tons, which is 6,000 pounds. It really happened that they traveled around in a horse-drawn wagon. Um, Today we know that confining and exhibiting a wild animal is inhumane, but Clara lived in a time before people understood her needs. The captain adopted and cared for her as well as he could, and Europeans who saw a rhino for the first time were moved by her majesty. Let me see. She was born around 1740, and her mother was killed soon after her birth. Since baby rhinos depend on their mothers for about 2 years, she was helpless when Jan Albert Sichterman, director of the Dutch East India Company in Assam, took her into his house, and so on and so on. So that's it. That's the end of the book. And then just to show you the map again, and what it says is the green line in the inset shows Clara's first sea voyage with the captain from her home in Calcutta, India, to Rotterdam in Holland. The red lines show Clara's astonishing tours of Europe with the captain, both by land in a horse-drawn wagon and by sea. So hold it there for a moment. It's quite a lot of traveling for a beautiful little big rhino. Okay, little guy, that took a long time. I should have maybe done it in 2 parts. But anyway, I hope you have a splendid day. And next time you go to the zoo, you might see a rhinoceros there. I love you, sweetie.